Thank you. So welcome everyone to our presentation, not presentation. I keep thinking it's a presentation. It feels like really official. But I just want to give a bit of a background before I go into this section to kind of talk about some challenges and opportunities in youth settlement services. So Tarana and I, and Azreen, we all kind of discussed at the beginning to kind of see how we can come together and kind of connect more and see where we can collaborate. Because I feel like a lot of our services, we kind of focus amongst ourselves rather than a lot of collaboration within our community. Now, of course, community partnership, we've all done that. We've all done networking and stuff like that. But I wanted more of a conference kind of thing to kind of, what we call as a forum, but I want kind of a conference for us to come together and kind of listen to each other's stories and, and then kind of discuss how we can resolve problems we see in the youth settlement sector. So, Alfred, thank you for giving a fantastic opening. I feel like he spoke everything I wanted to summarize this whole session. We can all go home now. I'm joking. But I think that's a really key important part because youth do build our future, and how we build them now is very important, for our community and stuff like that. So yeah, so again, welcome everyone. I'm gonna, the idea of this conference as well is to ensure that it makes it more interactive. So I encourage everyone, when I ask a question, please, raise your hand, interact with myself or people around you, because I don't want to make this a whole day session, just the people up here talking, right? This wasn't the idea of the forum. Rather, it's for you to connect with others, not just with the people you're sitting with, but people from across the room as well. So I just want to give you a quick mind on that. The folks online, unfortunately, can't be here, but welcome to kind of give some ideas off when we have the question and answer period as well. Yeah, I just want to give that a little bit before we start. I probably should have said this at the beginning, but here I am today. Okay, so to start us off, my notes. So just give me a second. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's okay. Stay down here. Ooh. Okay, so in my section, I'm kind of starting us off today, just kind of talk about what we see in the sector, kind of introduce the challenges we see generally, right? And then throughout the sessions today, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry about that. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, and then dive a little bit deeper into the specific topics from our other community partners. So in this session, we're going to explore some key objectives. The first thing is understanding specific needs, understanding what, some newcomer youth barriers. Now, newcomer youth are, they can be classified as a marginalized youth in our community. So we want to understand, what are these specific needs that youth born in Canada, for example, don't experience. The second thing I want to explore is a resource allocation. So learn about effective strategies about how we can optimize our resources, or AKA money, as we know, funding, to kind of improve newcomer youth's well-being. The third thing is service gaps. So identifying where we, lack of, right? Every organization, whether you are a big organization, small organization, or a middle one, just cover all of those. Identify where, the gaps are, and then where we can fill those gaps in through a variety of means. Then we're going to share some best practices. So kind of get around us to like where we can, address the needs and how we can best do that, right? There's always in my opinion, there's no like a terrible idea to help newcomer youth, but there's always a better way, okay? And the last thing is that community engagement. So that includes, going out there, doing outreaches, as well as, connecting with the people around you today to kind of see where we can, knock things off from there. Perfect. All right, and as I said, we're gonna start off straight off with a kind of an icebreaker. So the folks online, unfortunately, we won't be able to take your kind of like icebreaker session, but I just want to, a glimpse. I'm gonna start writing these points down as well. This lovely key chart, just so we can keep track of like the ideas we have for today. So I was wondering, what's one innovative approach or strategy your organization has implemented to support newcomer youth? You can kind of give your hands up and then I'll kind of write it down. Yes? Sorry, can you repeat that? Code design? Co-design. Gotcha. Perfect, thank you. And when you say something, before you say something, please introduce yourself. Will be great to know who you are. Sorry, second person. Yes. You have a mic too.
Hi, my name is Shane. I come from the Newcomer Center of Peel. One strategy that our organization has used to support newcomer youth is collaborating with our local community resources. We also organize volunteer opportunities. So when our newcomer youth are in high school, they need to get 40 hours, and then we try to make those volunteer opportunities both engaging and academic.
Perfect. Yeah, so community engagement, obviously important. Anyone else have any? Yes, back there.
I'm from Immigrant Services Guelph Wellington, and this year we tried the first time the program like summer activities for youth, and it was super successful because when during the summer kids don't have anything to do, a lot of people attended our program and they were interacting, they learned more about us, and now we also have this program full of volunteering, and now when September starts, they all want to come to us to volunteer with us. So it's also so nice to tell about yourself and to connect to the new students. Thank you.
Great, yeah, thank you. Yeah, summer camps, a great idea. Kids are out of school, you engage with them then, and then they're basically on you full time. And then we have someone at the front as well.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Joy. I'm from the Community Development Council Duum. So my role is as the school settlement worker. So for school settlement workers, we arrange a newcomer orientation week during the August, and we have a youth advisor committee during the school year to connect with the youth and connect the newcomer youth with the peer leaders in their schools and trying to support them during the school year. Thank you.
Perfect. Schools. Yes, that's a great one too. School settlements programs. We have one at CICS2 in North York. It's getting into schools, I think, is a great idea, especially when they have lunch breaks and stuff like that. One thing before the next person goes, if you can speak a little bit slower for our interpreters out there, just so people who need the ASL interpretation, they can still understand what's going on. Thank you. Yes, at the back, Vivian.
Vivian from CICS. We have the student council ICANN, and basically we invite student leaders to come together and plan events for other youth, so they would know what youth like best, so they make great events for other newcomer youth, so that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that in a bit since she's from our organization, but student councils, great opportunity to engage a community outside of schools. Let's take one more, if we have one. Yes, Patty.
Hi, I'm Patty O'Sullivan. I'm with the York Region District School Board, and we ran a newcomer youth program. And one thing that we did was almost a skills assessment where students would self-identify where their skills were, and then we would use that. So they would get volunteer hours by doing our social media, maybe some design of posters and flyers. And so whatever we found that they were interested in, we would give them volunteer hours to further that and promote the program at the same time.
Perfect. Thank you, Patty. So again, just emphasizing the school part. Maybe that's something you can think about in your organization as well, to kind of think about, the successes. And I know Patty's one of our guest speakers today as per the program. You can hear more about like, hey, what can we do in schools to kind of interact with youth that way, especially the newcomer youths. I think that's very important to kind of address as well. But yeah, thank you everyone for kind of participating in that. I kind of left everything up here. If we want to discuss more, have questions, we can kind of go through them a little bit more. Again, let's keep this as interactive as possible. Okay, so just before we go into the deeper topics, I did want to introduce my organization. So at CICS, we just actually celebrated our 55th anniversary. As you can see, we have our wonderful executive directors up there with our mayor of Toronto and several MPs. Yeah, so throughout our 56 years, I guess, of existence now, we have supported newcomer youth in the GTA and York region, delivering a variety of services that includes settlement, employment, youth, of course, for my team, as well as mental health services as well. That kind of arose where we're going. And we actually also recently took over a community project called the Markham Cycles Project. Maybe I'll dive into that another time if you want to talk to me about that, but that's a kind of a new project we kind of took on. But our commitment is we are committed to providing our clients with equal access to services that meet their individual needs. Our vision is fully integrated newcomers who participated in and contribute to all spheres of Canadian society. And our mission is to empower newcomers in settling and integrating as contributing members of Canadian society through diverse, professional, and innovative services. So the idea is that not only do we want to, our programming and our services are not only designed to help them settle, but also to bring them back into the community as, either working members of the community or, kind of bringing back their skills and their strengths into the community to kind of make it a better place for everyone. That's the idea of our commitment, vision, and mission. Okay, perfect. And then I hope this video works. It has a brief introduction as to one of our kind of subdivisions called the Immigrant Youth Center. I hope it's safe. Or not. I hope I don't give any viruses. One sec. What if I click this? Oh, sorry. That's okay. Okay. Well, we'll skip the video, but I can show you the video later. Basically, it's basically a brief. I would love to show you our space because at our Immigrant Youth Center, it's designed for youth. It's the only center in York region that's for youth only, and we have a lot of great space there, like a computer lab, lots of programming space at the back, and a lot of the art on the wall was actually designed by our youth ourselves too. So the idea of the message of the video was more to kind of not just suggest, hey, this is what we do, these are our services, but to also kind of bring forward the fact that, hey, we are not only workers ran, but we're also youth ran as well. So that's one thing I'll talk about more later, but that's one thing that kind of our slogan kind of suggests is together we grow. So not only are we teaching youth, but the youth are teaching us as well about what they know and stuff like that. Okay, so you might be wondering who I am and what are my qualifications. It's like a job interview. And what it took for me to come up here and talk to you guys today. So yeah, I am the program manager of our youth services, been around at CICS for around 3-ish years. Aside from administrative work, my role is to ensure all youth programs are delivered as effectively as possible, addressing as many challenges as we can face as they can to kind of better the community. I say especially newcomer youth is because we have more than one kind of program and funder for our agency. So we do those multiple funder, as we know, we're all funded by someone and they have targets, right? So our target audience is youth beyond the newcomer base as well. But we're kind of more focused on the newcomer youth. And just some fun facts about me. I worked in aquatics and recreational services for many years before I came into the settlement agency. My experience with youth kind of stemmed from there. And my passion kind of arose from there to kind of help broaden the landscape as to who I help with throughout the community. I am also a current mentor at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Peel, York. I have a mentor. I do a one-to-one program. I encourage everyone. It's a I'm not advertising for them, to be fair, just giving you a heads up. But I am proud of being a mentor to a one-to-one mentee. I feel like that's a great way to kind of get my way away from the administrative work in the manager role. I feel like sometimes there's too much of that on my head. So I spend some of my free time to kind of help out in a one-to-one setting where we do a variety of fun activities. And I love to swim and work out. That's a great way to kind of do things other than work. Okay, and then just to highlight a few things about our Immigrant Youth Center programs. First thing is the ICANN Council, as mentioned by our previous worker. So what that is it's a council made by newcomer youth, made up of newcomer youth, and they come together, I guess, every month, I would say, probably a little bit more than just, more frequent than that, to kind of come up with some community program that they would like to kind of do around the community to kind of better the community. So for example, one thing is that they would run a Halloween event, for example, and all the events specifics and all the other stuff that they do is kind of direct, it's supported by youth workers, but they are all the decisions and the activities that they make within the program are all done by youth. So that's the idea of the Youth Council, is a lot of the decisions we make, not only in the programming, but in our space as well, is kind of decided by youth. Second highlight is volunteer programs. So I know we talked about co-design and kind of collaborations within the community with volunteers. So we run a lot of volunteer programs within our program as well to ensure youth not only hit that 40 hours of volunteer hour service for high school students, but to also give them some leadership training, right? And to kind of give them a better understanding as to what it means to be part of the community. Third thing is, I know it was talked about as well, was summer camps. We also run our March break and summer camps at our agency. And in these programs, we do a lot of recreational and leadership programs. So that's just a quick gist about that. And then the last two things are academic and recreational services. So academic support, for example, is a big need, as we may know, in our community. A lot of kids are asking for tutoring support, but oftentimes we have Kumon and other tutoring services that are quite expensive and sometimes unaffordable. So we want to make sure that we still have that space for them. So we offer those services, as well as recreational services. I'm a passionate swimmer, as I mentioned, so I'm actually proud to say that we are starting a newcomer swimming program that are targeted towards just newcomer youth, and they will be able to access free swimming lessons moving forward, I think starting actually in beginning of October. And we partner with the municipalities about that. So again, collaborate with the community, very important, okay? If you want to know more, we actually have a booth at the back. We have a lot of program flyers, or you can come talk to our workers that I did not force to be here. Okay, let me be fair. I did not force them to be here, but you can talk to them as well to see if there's any, collaboration or any insights you want to gain from them. Okay, so next I just want to go over a quick case study. I know I wanted to make this as interactive as possible. But I also wanted to go over something before we go into that interactive piece, because I feel like a case study, is sometimes important to kind of review and see like, hey, that's what I see in my book as well. And then you kind of go from there. So, so in our case study, we had recently a client arrive in Canada about a year into the pandemic. So this was back in 2021. And this is actually a youth I supported when I first arrived at CICS as a youth worker. He had no sense of belonging. He needed a lot of community engagement, had limited English capabilities, and had emotional trauma, as I would say, throughout our work together and throughout my case management. There was a lot of, things he was experiencing back at his home country, and he kind of brought over here as well as an emotional toll on him. So those were his needs, and we kind of, looked into helping them out through that way. Yeah. So, so some complicated or unique factors, based on the needs we have, include difficulty expressing his feelings, their feelings, I would say. So, in this case, what I mean by that is, even though he had all this emotion in him and all this, anger, I think he had a lot of anger and a lot of didn't know how to deal with, how to handle anxiety and stuff like that. He also had difficulty kind of saying what he needed help with. So that's sometimes we see a lot in our newcomer youth in our center, at least, is that youth don't know, when to get help, right? And this kind of, I'm not going to dive too deep into the mental health sector because we do have our experts here today, but that was one unique factor. Second thing was help with learning school English outside of school. So as I said, his English skills are very limited. He wasn't able to, talk to a lot of his friends at school because of his English capabilities. And he actually had problems interacting with us because a lot of terms that he was able to use, he only knew them in that language, right? So it was hard for us to interact with him at first. And he also had a limited trust for authority figures. We found it a lot that this was based on his emotional trauma in the past, where he never trusted someone with authority. So it doesn't have to be a police. It could just be a teacher or a settlement worker like myself before, where it seemed like he didn't trust us at all. And he didn't really feel like expressing that, I have a problem. He didn't trust our methods. But I guess a unique factor was he loved sports, right? It's a positive one, but still a unique factor. Like he loves sports. He excelled in a lot of sports in school. I think now he plays basketball and volleyball specifically at his school. So, but as and just kind of, after talking about this, I just wanted to talk about our intervention and what I did, or I guess our team did, to kind of help him through this. So as I said, sports was his unique factor. He loved playing sports. So through sports and kind of volunteering, because he's in high school now, the youth was able to learn more English and learn to manage his emotions better. So through working with him through our summer camps, he did volunteer for that. And, a lot of our basketball program to kind of, when he was not only when he's was playing the basketball itself, but he was interacting with other youth, he was able to learn a bit more from our youth workers to kind of understand, hey, every time someone, for example, bumps into me, I don't have to punch him back kind of thing, because he was at that point where his anger was not manageable. But as he learned throughout the advice from our youth workers and advice from other people, he was able to manage his emotions better. And the second thing was he was able to connect with more friends at our programs. I feel like, everyone here and everyone online can kind of attest to this, is that, hey, community programs really help people connect and make friends around the community outside of school, right? So now, now I can say for a fact that he has many friends at CICS as well in our youth program, and he often joins with them when he comes into our program. And the last thing I just want to mention is that he also helped out with our camp programs. He was a great volunteer. He had a little bit struggle at first because he was a camper before, but he transitioned into a leadership role, which kind of helped him progress to, become who he is today. He is now still today working on his ability to kind of lead people, but we feel like he has great potential. And yeah, we kind of worked things with him through about, managing his emotions and stuff like that. But yeah, I just want to share this quick story because I'm sure everyone here has kind of worked through that, case in your head as well. It'd be like, oh, we had that case once with one of the youth that I work with and stuff like that. But this is kind of a very common thing. Hands up if this is a common issue that you see in your work as well. I thought there were more. But yeah, so again, this is just a very common factor, that a common kind of case that occurs. And I just want to share that before we go into anything further. So more interactive piece, fun. So what are your thoughts about this? Are there any additional referrals we could have done? I didn't go over that obviously because I don't want to bore everyone with all the things that we referred the youth to and things that the methods that we helped them out with. But what are some additional supports or referrals you think the youth could have gotten? Give a few seconds. The people online, you can write it down on your piece of paper or kind of bring it up during the Q&A session. But anyone have any thoughts in the room right now? We didn't do a perfect job, did we? Yes, the back over there.
That community, sorry, I'm tall, so guys. In that community, you could also refer to rep teams for basketball just to help. They could also gain volunteer hours for rep teams in the local community. I have a lot of kids. I coach basketball as well as play it. So this is kind of close to home for me, but I find that a lot of kids are trying to find rep teams outside of high school. So trying to find the local community teams and so forth, community centers and so forth will go a long way. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Referring youth to more resources out there to excel in what they're already good at, right? So rep teams is a great way. I would say one thing I would say for that is, keeping in mind that rep teams do, have like kind of financial commitment to it as well. But obviously, we work with the youth's unique factors, right? But of course, I think that's a great idea to kind of refer them. Just a side thought on that. But I realized that was good. I think, Patty, you had something to say as well?
The other one maybe would be some referrals to family supports, because we know newcomers come and they take a lot of baggage with their parents and their family situation, and maybe just to give them the information that they can then pass on to their families.
Mm-hmm. Yep, family supports. At CICS, we do have a family well-being program. That's one that offers family supports as to like healthy parenting programs for the parents, as well as other youth programs. Anything else in particular? And then just one thing to kind of note is that referrals sometimes are fast and slow. Sorry, just one quick note about that. Sometimes referrals are slow. Some referrals are fast. So how can we make these more doable, right? I think that's one thing we can think about today as well is sometimes we can't help the youth. We kind of make the referral out there, but that referral could take like months, maybe a year, right? How can we as a newcomer settlement services, yes, I think that's a good way to put it. How can we as like a group here or, outside of this group, make those referrals faster? Yes, Karen.
Hello. Okay, so I was thinking like he had trouble with authority, so then I would predict maybe he would struggle in school. Teachers, maybe he's struggling with homework and they're like, why didn't you do it? And then that will really make him really angry, which understandable, right? So maybe the school settlement worker piece. And because I don't know how many school settlement workers are in each school, I imagine maybe like social workers, some people share settlement workers between schools. So in terms of speeding up referrals, maybe advocating for like more of that need and having more settlement workers in school would be good.
Yeah. So again, it goes to the referral piece, right? To kind of refer it back to his school. Which school did our youth go to? Can we connect him with a SEPT worker, as we call those workers? Sorry, SEPT, settlement. I apologize, I don't know the complete term, but it's SEPT. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay, I think you mentioned about the quick referrals and the slow referrals. Sometimes it depends on how you know about your community well. So some organizations, they have the space to take another youth, and based on their religions or based on their ethnicity, where are they from, connect with them with more local community small service providers. So I think that will make the referrals quicker. And also I think connect with the youth, as Karen mentioned before, in the schools, with his classmates, with the teachers. That's like something we can advocate to.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. And that's where networking comes through. And that's why we have this forum today, right? To kind of connect with our smaller partners out there. Yes.
I can go. My name is Katusa and I'm from Strides Toronto. I'm going to piggyback off of what I forgot your name, Joy said. I know there's a lot of us doing similar work, but within community services and newcomer youth settlement field, there's that slight differences that different organizations are doing. And so understanding the community, collaborating, but also knowing what the slight differences are will help, because if I'm running a newcomer program and you have another newcomer program, the differences will help. And with that, the registration process is a little bit faster. For example, within our program, we have newcomer services, but we also have youth outreach workers. In times where we need that extra hand, outreach workers work with the youth one-on-one. So this might help fasten the process of getting them into another program and getting him a little bit more adapted to another service that's working with newcomer youth, but maybe the differences might benefit them in a way that they can kind of gain more support in the community they're from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for that. I think everyone has that one thing in mind too about referrals is why not just get more workers and more funding? But obviously we have to work around that, right? There's always the money factor to do it, funding, right? Funding, get more people. But we're kind of looking to kind of think of innovative ways to kind of go around that barrier. And yeah, and everything that's brought up so far, great points. Okay, now let's talk about some of the general challenges we see in the newcomer youth sector. I didn't cover everything here, but this is just some things that you can probably relate to as well. Just kind of start off our session. First thing, language barriers. So difficulty in learning and mastering English or French can impede academic services, performance, social integration, and access to services. So one unique factor for newcomer youth that you probably see, and I've already talked about, is language barrier. Okay, language barrier is a big one because communication in the, in the human services or just interacting with others is very important. If they can't communicate what they want, we can't help them. So we kind of, language barriers is one big one within the newcomer youth kind of like realm. Second thing is cultural adjustments. So this is a big one. So adapting to new cultural environment can be challenging, leading to feelings of isolation, cultural identity conflicts, and struggles in maintaining one's cultural heritage while integrating into Canadian society. So youth come from across the world, whether it be from the continent of Africa, continent of Asia, South Asia, wherever it might be. Everywhere in the world is different. Okay, and as we see in the world, in our in our local spaces, we have a variety of youth coming together into what we call a melting pot, right? It's like a social science term, and to really get them into the Canadian society, with to kind of, they have a big cultural barrier sometimes in a way where they can't interact with others the same way that they do within their the country of origin that they came from. So that's one thing. And then that barrier kind of impacts their daily lives, who they interact with, and all that sorts of stuff. Third thing, educational challenges. So this is a big one because newcomer youth and their families may face difficulties in understanding and assessing the Canadian healthcare system, including finding appropriate healthcare providers, understanding health insurance coverages, and overcoming language barriers during medical consultations. This can lead to unmet health needs and increased stress. So I see 2 points there. I forgot to try to put a slash, but education, not only for the academics, because I put that in the language barrier as well, but education in terms of learning other stuff around the community, right? So this would include, like, as I mentioned, healthcare, right? Where would they get resources? Where would they get support if they need employment, right? Kind of learning about these resources is very important, and sometimes they had troubles finding. I come from for example, I'm a first generation Canadian here, so my parents are not born in Canada. They came from overseas. So in that perspective, even my parents didn't know where to access resources. They kind of handled everything on their own. So if I found out that an immigrant youth center down the street, or like a Strides Toronto, or like a Welcome Center somewhere close to me, that would greatly benefit myself, not only myself, but my parents as well, right? So kind of learning about these things is definitely a barrier we see in our line of work. Mental health and well-being. This is a big one as well that's basically been coming up since the pandemic, as well as, I guess, been stressed more during the pandemic. So the stress of migration, past traumas, and the challenges of adapting to a new environment can contribute to a mental health issue such as anxiety, depression, and PTSD, depending obviously in a variety of cases. Some youth do come from war-torn countries, right? Or they come from a space where, a certain, mental health is not talked about a lot, right? So for example, a lot of our East Asian youth that we work with, mental health is frowned upon. I had a youth yesterday just actually mentioned this about like, he does want to go back to China eventually to do a piloting. But he mentioned, and it was a big stigma there, where if they found out that they talked about mental health, if he disclosed his mental health concerns, they wouldn't hire him. Right, so this stigma and this kind of mental health well-being does lead to a barrier where they won't look out for support. And for them to understand and educate them and understand what mental health is very important and is a barrier for our newcomer youth. Social inclusion. So forming new friendships and social networks can be challenging for them, particularly in the face of potential discrimination, bullying, and feelings of being an outsider. So this is one in the schools that's where they are for most of the time. They do come to some of our youth come to our center and they tell us like, hey, my parents signed me up for this program because I'm always at home. Right. I think that's one thing we've seen as well as a lot of our youth don't know where to make friends, especially if they've just came to Canada. Right. So I'm sure a lot of our, as I mentioned, our Immigrant Youth Center, we offer that space for them to kind of be themselves, to make friends with similar interests. I'm sure the rest of your organizations do as well. But I'm sure you understand that this is a barrier for them to kind of get included within the Canadian space, right, if they're completely new. And then last but not least, economic challenges, right? So financial instability can limit access to extracurricular activities, technology, and other resources, affecting their ability to fully participate in and benefit from their new environment. So again, money kind of is a big barrier for many of our newcomers. As I mentioned before, like, if they want to join a rep team, that would cost the parents, several $1,000s per year. Right. So, in that way, or even if they want to go to tutoring to better academics, or for example, if they want to join an activity to learn a life skill, right? That's like swimming, for example. It's sometimes a barrier for them because the family needs to, for rent, food and stuff at home. So that's one big challenge that we see in our line of work as well. So with that being said, I'm offering some possible ways of support. I'm sure you guys know many of these as well. But some ways, now that we talked about challenges, is kind of, offering language classes. That's one thing that works greatly. So in schools, I know they offer ESL, English as Second Language courses. I think that's not called something different now, so don't come at me for using the wrong term. But ESL courses, programs in schools and community centers. Cultural exchange events, so hosting events that celebrate diverse cultural, cultures coming together to celebrate the events. So, for example, we run a community event, for example, in what's it called, Lunar New Year, when that happens, right? So a lot of our community members, not only from the East Asian culture, are also welcomed into our center to kind of learn about some stuff, and we usually have a diverse show up for that. So that's one thing that we do as well. Tutoring and homework help, that's one great thing as well, setting up after school. I'm sure that's like our staple program in many of our agencies, to run a school program, after school program, to help with the kids' academics. Youth clubs and activities, so creating clubs, councils, any recreational programs to help the youth connect with peers, build skills. And as well as job training and internships for like the employment piece. Right, so a lot of the youth, nowadays, they are looking for jobs once they hit the age of 16. So in that way, by offering job trainings, internships to them, and opportunities for them to work in, our agency or outside, is a very important and crucial role for them to gain some work experience from there. And this goes for not only newcomer youth, obviously, but it also goes for the Canadian-born ones as well. Okay. So now that I have bored you with my talking, let's do a quick discussion activity. Okay. So this one is more within ourselves. Just looking at time, I don't have 10 minutes for you guys to kind of come up with everything, but I'd like to have you guys discuss within your tables right now, and then we'll discuss after about some of the what are some ways challenges you see at your organization, and how do you, and the bonus question is, what do you do to assist with these unique challenges? So on your table, we actually put a lot of these sticky notes on your table. So if you can, just write down what your group kind of discusses, and then kind of post it up here. And I'm gonna go after 5 minutes. The folks online, if you can just write it on a piece of paper, and if you'd like to put it in the question and answer period, you are more than welcome to. I'm just gonna give the folks here around 5 minutes to kind of put everything together. And again, feel free to post it up here once you have something down. Yeah, no, this is, I think it's a great show. All right, hands up if you still have a post-it note to post up. Hands up. We have one table, yep. Anyone else? Oh, yes. Okay, one more, or two more, right? Okay. Oh, we have one online as well, perfect. Wow, thank you. All right, I'm gonna give that table 10 seconds left. 15 seconds, all right, give them 5 more seconds. Thank you, thank you. I love the participation. Right. Wow. Okay, so that's 6 notes. Okay. Gotcha. I can put it maybe up here. Perfect. Okay. All right. Can I have your attention back up here, please? Attention back up here. I know we all love to talk to each other now. That's actually what I wanted for this event, is for you guys to talk to each other more. But obviously, I had to do talking, so you gotta bear with me, okay? So we actually have one suggestion, one thing online. If we can get that one of the notes online that that person wanted to put. So let's get that in first.
Yeah, so we have Samia Ramadan, who shared, provide a mentor to the youth through a school's newcomer club, collaborate with Swiss to provide wraparound support in school as well as out of school. To alleviate food insecurity for newcomer youth, we implemented a kitchen connection program, partnered with local food bank for supplies and the local community center for use of their kitchen to have youth learn how to cook simple meals given any ingredients they could find at home or purchase.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great, that sounds like a great thing. Mentorship tying into life skills. That's a very innovative one. We should partner with our food bank that we have, youth team. Okay, so let's read some stuff off the board we have here. These will stay up here. I'll probably be at the edge over there. So if you want to take a quick read after, you can feel free to. I'm going to read this the best I can. The first one I have here is creating workshop opportunities that appeal, relate to a group of people, immigration groups. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Conversation circles. Start with workshops that more generally are relatable, then make some more specific ones based on demand. So needs assessments. I like that. The blue one down here says collaboration, competition, and unique services. Yeah, so collaboration, competition, but okay, that's I'm not sure what that completely means, but unique services in terms of collaborating with, I don't want to say we're all competing against each other for clients. That's a very bad way to think about helping people in the community, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys think the same way, but collaborating with the community in general, great thing. We put that up here before. No show after registration confirmation. That's a big one within IYC as well. Yeah, my table over there saying, yeah. That's a big challenge that we face as well. I'm just going to go a little bit into that because our services are for free. There's no kind of like financial commitment, no time commitment to it. So they kind of, once they register, like I would say 60% of the people show up. I think that's a high number too, high percentage. So one way to tackle this, we have a variety of ways to do it. I'm not going to go into it because I'll speak for probably 2 hours about it. But we have many ways to kind of tackle that problem. But that is one issue that we see, and I'm sure you guys see that as well. Generational differences. That's a good one. I feel like that is sometimes a challenge in terms of how we design youth programs. I know a lot of the youth nowadays love to use, online social media to kind of get their information. So sometimes it's hard to relate with the new trends going on. If you ask me what these new, the terms the youth use nowadays, I have no clue. I'm not up to date with that. So that sometimes does impact our ways to interact with the youth as well. Outreach, that's definitely a challenge as well. I think we talked enough about that, but great point on outreach. Timing of programs and technological distractions. That's a good one. I feel like a lot of kids are on their phones nowadays, right? But one way we can work around that, maybe just as a suggestion, is maybe we do something on the phones, right? There's a lot of, I know we all know Kahoot. I hope we all know Kahoot. We have another fun kind of media that we use. It's called Bluekit. For the interpreters is Blooket. Bluekit. Bluekit is a Kahoot-like activity, but has a lot of fun games on it. So sometimes we actually use the phone during our program to kind of have a fun competition with them. But yeah, technological distractions, big one. Not every newcomer youth is accepted to schools. That's an interesting one. That's an important problem that we should address as well, is because without academics, what are they doing throughout the school year, right? That could lead to certain problems, right? Resource for interpretation for newcomer deaf youth. Oh, yeah, that's youth with disabilities, right? I think that's a big one as well, to kind of accommodate and kind of, will they get a one-to-one support? Right? I, as far as I know, I'm not sure if the school boards have a system for that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, but the school boards, I don't think they have a system to kind of provide them that support during the classrooms and stuff like that. That's a big trouble as well. Education, the community, educate the community about the deaf group. Yes, I think that's not talked about enough. That's actually that's a really good point. That's the first time I've heard about that as well, with youth with disabilities in general, right? Newcomer youth with disabilities, right? Oh, yes, one more online. Yeah.
We also have Tasneem Damji, who shared, "My name is Tasneem Damji and I'm based in Vancouver. I work with high school students to navigate the university application process and create strong applications with personal essays. Immigrant youth are often stuck into wards where their parents want them to study a particular field, and they're trying to create a future based on their interests. At the same time, newcomer youth faces economic challenges that prevent them from going to university, and I help them explore other options after high school that works for them and their family's economic situation."
Thank you, Tasmin. I personally experienced that, so I totally understand where we're coming from. Sometimes the field that, a lot of the newcomer parents want the best for their children, and sometimes they recommend what's the most high-paying job, what's the most prestigious job out there. And clearly, sometimes, the youth interest lies somewhere else. And that's what we advocate for our youth as well. Our center is ensuring that, hey, you do what you like. If you need help talking with your parents and having your parents understand the Canadian system here, you can let us know. So we offer that support as well. But great point. Surprise from Vancouver. Welcome. Okay, so just going over the last few bits here was transportation costs to get to programs. Yes, that's a great one as well. I think an average ticket for TTC for youth, I think is $235 per ride. So if you think about it, if they're in our programs for more than 3 hours, that back and forth, that is $470 a day. Okay, $470 a day sometimes not affordable, so that's a big one. One thing you can offer is using some community funding to kind of buy those, but obviously not all our agencies have that funding. But yeah, that's a big one as well, because sometimes virtual programs works as an alternative, but sometimes you can't do like a sports program online. That's super difficult. Denying immigrants community bracket not willing to be in the same environment with immigrants. Whoa, xenophobia. That shouts xenophobia to me. Sorry. That's an interesting one. If can I get a bit more of an explanation on that? Who put that by any chance? Sorry, we'll give you a mic. I'm interested to explore that a bit more. I'm just interested to see what you see in your community, because that's actually the first time I'm hearing that.
Yes.
Oh, not
Thank
first
you.
time, but
Do you want me to introduce myself again?
no, it's okay. Just yeah.
Okay, so what we saw that in some communities there are a lot of people and they're going to the same schools, and when there are newcomers coming from the same community, they don't want to live here and go to the school because they're saying, oh, it's school of immigrants, we don't want to go there. Like, we can see that, and from one side it's so different from what we can see that people who are coming, they want to see like people who are similar to them, also who are newcomers. But we started to see that because there are a lot of them, they're thinking, no, we want to go to Canadian school. We don't want to go to school where most of the kids are immigrants.
Oh, yes, that's a big one as well. I think specifically in communities, who aren't populated by a lot of immigrant youth or just immigrant families, that might be a problem as well. That's actually a unique one. I never heard that when I had discussions with other agencies and stuff like that. I think it's because we're in the GTA area, most of us, right? And we see a lot of diversity within our communities. So, oh, yes, we have one point there. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to add one point to her point. That is, most of the families that are the newcomers, they refer to those schools because of the ESL program.
Right.
It's not that by choice, but the school board forced them to do that. So that's an issue too.
Systematic.
Yeah.
Right. Systematically, that's something is sometimes an issue. I think one more good point is bringing up the different cultural groups clashing with each other too, right? We know there's a lot of issues within, I'm just going to bring up a few examples, but Palestinians, Israelis, right? And then we also have the Ukrainians and Russians too, right? They are conflicting in their own, political kind of situation going on there. That sometimes comes in an issue as well, and a bigger problem, right? A good one. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to quickly go over this. Rebuilding after COVID, yes. Right, a lot of youth are used to online learning, but then when they come back, they don't know how to talk with other people and communicate. I think that's a big problem as well. Client retention, that's a good one. How to keep clients coming into our programs and build a relationship with them. Build relations. I think that's a solution. And volunteer opportunities. Yes, volunteering is a big one. Food insecurity, yep, that's a big one. A lot of newcomer youth or just newcomers in general have that. Food cost is not getting any cheaper. So that would lead to community food pantries. Yes, so at CSCS, we actually have a food bank and food program. You can ask us a bit more about that, but that is definitely one solution for that. One of the many solutions, I would say. Nutritional programs, and then limitation, office space. Yeah, office space is not cheap, as we know. And some funders don't fund us for that space. So what do we do then? That is money problem, I would say. But yeah, these are all great. I think we can all have our own little discussion afterwards if we need to throughout the day. Thank you for participating in this activity. Appreciate it. Okay, so that's it from my portion at least. As you know, if you want to contact me more about collaboration or anything, I actually have a QR code there if you want to scan that. I'll talk about that in a little bit in my networking activity. That's a great website to use if you want to use, if you don't want to use business cards. So my QR code is there if you want to scan it for my information. Yeah, so now I think it's that's it for my presentation part. But I think we have we're going to take 2 questions and 2 questions here and 2 questions online. If you want to think about some right now, we have 15 minutes to do so. So let's start with here. 1 question here. Is there any questions that you want to ask me about my presentation? You're interested in something to kind of dive a little bit more? Yes. Mike.
Hate microphones.
Same.
You mentioned Kumon
Yes.
as part of your program. How did you get affiliated? How does that work?
Sorry, I did not get part of Kuma. I'm saying like that's an example of like tutoring that is unaffordable. But we do, however, partner with other educational programs. So for example, we partnered with Code Ninjas before. That's a program that teaches kids about coding, right? Programming, like computer programming. We did a few sessions with them in our computer lab at our Immigrant Youth Center. So I don't know if that's one avenue we can explore as a newcomer youth sector. It's connecting with tutoring agencies. But hey, there's anything is possible as long as we kind of wish for it. With limitations, obviously. But I think that was a short question. We can take one additional one before we go to the online one. But yes, yeah.
Sorry, question about the. Oh, sorry, my brain.
No problem.
Part of one of the services that we wanted to provide for our newcomers was giving them the information for post-secondary, for looking at what options are for college or for university funding. Have you ever run a college fair for your youth?
So for ours, that's a great one, a great question, because a lot of our newcomer youth and immigrant youth do look for post-secondary opportunities. We don't run a college and university fair. However, every year that OUF runs, so the Ontario University Fair, when they run, we run a field trip there. So I think it's usually on like a Saturday, Sunday, I think. So we rent a school bus, and then we have any youth that's interested to join us that day, come to us at free of charge. We go downtown for one day, and then we kind of explore different sections with the youth. In terms of post-secondary support, our workers obviously work, well, not obviously, but they work diligently to find information online for them into a one-to-one setting so that it kind of adheres to what they're looking for. I had one youth worker actually work through someone with their OSAP process as well. OSAP is a very confusing process, not only for newcomers, but for us as well who are born in Canada. So that's one service we offer as well. But yeah, maybe potentially, I think if your agency wants to connect with local schools to come into your center to run a workshop to kind of talk about, what your school does. I think it's easy because, not all, for example, if someone lives in Markham and they have to go all the way to Trent, that's not possible, right? And Trent maybe has a great program for them. Trent is in far. I forgot. Thunder Bay? Peterborough. Yes, far. Yes, far. Okay. But yeah, great question. I think lots of avenues to explore, helping youth with post-secondary schooling issues and questions. But yeah, that's how we do it at our center to usually support that.
Thank you.
Let's get one question from online.
We're just checking if we have any.
Checking.
Tarana, do we have any questions online yet? No, I think we can take 2 more questions.
2 more questions here. We have time, a lot of time actually. Yes.
Hi, could you please name your 3 most popular programs you are running?
3 most, sorry? Popular programs. We have a lot. Well, one of them is Homework Club. That's our 3rd most popular one, I would say. Homework Club. Yeah, homework club. So we usually run that program. A lot of volunteer youth come in for volunteer opportunities as well. Do my workers want to say which ones they are popular? Field trips, that's a very popular one as well, because it's often more or less offered at a free, if not like at a very low cost. So some field trip examples that we do is we go to Air Riders, what was that jump park called? Treetop trekking. We go to Sky Zone. Yes, that's the one we go to. We also sometimes go to. We went to a baseball game not too long ago. And then we also went to a hockey game, the Marlies. Yeah. So field trips are often very popular because it gives the youth a different experience as to where they can go and experience. So that's one. And then I would say our most popular program is life skills program. I would say I'll categorize that life skills program. I feel like a lot of youth kind of go to our programs to learn a few things, bake a few things, right? We have at our space, if I could show a video, right? We have a whole space for a kitchen space for them to kind of do some baking, cooking. And we always tie this with like other life skills as well, or other lessons that they can learn from these programs. So yeah, those are our top 3 programs. Long answer to your question, but I need the support from my workers because sometimes they see the most of it and I don't know so much. Yeah, that's a great question. Let's take one more question before we go into something else. Any other question, comments, concerns, complaints? I'm kidding. I always like to say that in our youth programs. Yes.
I would like to add a comment.
Sure.
So I know we're talking about working with very young individuals. However, I think they also need to be mindful that they also bring stories and experiences that are worth to pay attention and to validate. An 18, 19-year-old here could be quite different from an 18, 19-year-old coming from South America or from Africa. So let's have that in mind. It's an invitation to have that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. I think we had a question here. I think we still have a little bit more.
We have one question online.
Question online. Let's go to the question online and then over there. Yeah.
So Fernando is asking, what would be a strategy for youth who are involved in video games and are in loneliness and isolation because they do not want to be in relationships with other youth?
That is a great question, and we actually see that within our sector as well. We've had parents come to us and kind of explain their issue about like, hey, my kid is staying in the room the whole time playing video games, not really interacting with us, and I have to work a full-time job, and I don't have the time to help. What are some suggestions? And it's a difficult one sometimes because, as workers in the community or social workers or, in your position, in a professional, in this profession, sometimes we have to maintain that barrier as well and make sure that we don't dive too deep into, of the family relationship. But one approach that we did, we did this recently was we had the same case, right? A parent came in and told us like, hey, my daughter just loves to play video games all the time on her phone, doesn't go outside, just comes straight to home and doesn't interact with me. What can I do to get support for that? So for that, we actually had the solution for that was, it was a difficult one to make the call for, but we actually got the daughter and the mother to come in together and talk it out. That doesn't work for everyone. I'm not offering that as a one-time solution, but for that specific scenario, both the daughter and the mother consented to kind of having that conversation with a youth worker there to kind of mediate things, and then they kind of talked out the feelings about how they feel with everything, and then that kind of got a little better. We kind of introduced the youth to some programs that we had. And then she actually eventually, I think, will be joining those programs, as far as I know. But the key, I guess, important thing in that, in terms of playing video games and stuff like that, is potentially, if you see that as a need, try to integrate that in your programming somehow. I'm not saying to start even better suggestion, what if we have a video game club? Right? I see that at community centers where they have a lot of youth come into drop-in times because they have consoles and stuff there, and then the youth just kind of interact with each other there. And this is a great space. It gives a great way for kids to come together and connect, right? That's just one suggestion. Obviously, it's not a solution, a one-time solution for everything, but we work with the youth's needs, and then we kind of go from there. I'm not sure if that answers your question like completely, but obviously we want to introduce them to our space slowly. We don't want to force anything upon them because that will eventually push them away further. Okay, I hope that answers your questions kind of, and kind of go from there. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to deal with it. And then one more question before we go on a short break, I think is from here. Mike.
So two little things. One is about the case study you presented, and I have two questions there. One is, was there any consideration to connect these youth with people from their own community who you served before, maybe, or you have as a pool of supporters, cultural supporters, let's say? And the other question about that case study is, what skills do you require your social workers to have, like such as knowledge about trauma-informed approaches, strength-based, and so on?
Yeah, so
and I have another comment just about sticky notes. So after maybe.
Sure. Yeah, so the first part of the question was asking, just to repeat it, and to clarify, is what other supports did we link them to?
I mean, like, do you have, like, did you consider connecting this youth to someone from his own community to tackle the issue of, challenges with authority, challenges with integration with the new culture, just like pave the way for them to be connected with people from their own community?
Yeah, so in this specific case study, connecting with the people around the youth's, connections and stuff like that, we obviously worked with the parents very closely. We did speak to school teachers and counselors that were a part, kind of a part of it. We saw most of it kind of come out in our center. As far as we know, the youth did not express, any of these anger issues and didn't overtly kind of bring it up to school. But we did connect with the youth's family and some of the friends that kind of connect with them more, the friends that he made at CSCS, and kind of worked with them to kind of better understanding, what was the root cause of the issue, right? We didn't know before that he had some sort of, emotional trauma back in his home country of origin, to kind of do with that. So yeah, to just kind of summarize that, we did connect with them, but the most of the case, from what we heard from the family, was that it actually came from, from home rather than the rest of the community. It didn't really show in that case. And the second question was, can you repeat it? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I think that's a great stream to the second question. So yeah, what your
qualifications for work,
qualifications and trauma-informed, strength-based, things like that?
Yeah, so with our workers at the Center for Immigrant and Community Services for youth workers, they don't require to have obviously we look for someone with a social work background, but they're not required to have like an MSW or like a RSW kind of thing. With these more intense cases, if we do need to refer them past our capabilities, we refer them to other community agencies that have trained psychotherapists, trained RSWs that are able to talk to the youth and that are better equipped to serve the youth. In this specific case, we didn't have to, because we were able to just use our background knowledge about what the youth needed, and kind of worked with him through that. Luckily, we didn't have to refer to escalate any further. Yeah, so with our workers, we just require some kind of background in understanding youth, and obviously education around the social sciences and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you trying to get a job?
That's amazing.
And then sticky notes, yes.
One comment about the sticky notes that has collaboration and competition with arrows between them. It was something I heard from my colleagues here, from my friends here, that usually when you go to a school to kind of present your services to them and say, like, we work with youth and so on, they will tell you that, we have another like organization working here.
Right. Yeah.
And that like, we know actually that it's a problem in the sector. Competition is a problem. And I think the first step to kind of tackle this is acknowledging that it's a problem, and it's not us. It's not our bad intention to compete with anyone. The system put us, the funding system, the reporting system, put us in a place where we have to report numbers, and that mathematically speaking, you'll need to kind of compete and just like this will reduce collaboration. That's what I meant by that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I kind of got that feeling of that. Obviously, that's a bigger conversation for, for another conference or another bigger senior management meeting. I don't know, right? But obviously, there's always competition. I can't dismiss that there's no competition, right? As as we may know, there's other organizations out there fighting for those numbers to get funding every year, right? That's a bigger conversation within the community that's outside of this conference. So I'm not going to go dive too deep into it today. But yes, that's a great point to bring up and something our sector needs to figure it out, basically. But yeah, that's all we have time for. Oh, we have one question online.
I just checked, yeah, I think online.
That's good. Questions is good. I encourage it because that means you guys are thinking and kind of
Yeah, so
driving it through your head.
Tasneem again. Just like the previous speaker shared, change the way we look at immigrants and see them as active storytellers. What are some things organizations are doing to help tell the stories in immigrant youth?
Stories for immigrant youth. Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
What are some things organizations are doing to help tell the stories in immigrant youth?
Okay, so yeah, telling the stories of immigrant youth, I think that's a great question. Sometimes newcomer youth aren't seen, right? A lot of times we see a youth in the streets or, at school, and they might just seem like they're born here in Canada, right? But to kind of bring their stories out there, I think to start is that, we become their advocates to kind of tell their story, to tell their needs and kind of work with them there, right? Because if they're just hiding in the shadows and we don't kind of address these issues, long-lasting issues, we can't address them ever. So I think the first part is as settlement workers and settlement youth workers specifically, we need to bring out the story in the community, have conferences like this, forums, right, discussions, collaborations, right, with each other to kind of bring it out there, not just within our sector, but outside of it as well. Have partnerships with the municipal government, federal, right, or provincial, right? There's a lot of ways the outside community needs to know about immigrant youth stories and how to address their needs and why our sector is important to begin with. But that's a short answer to a very long answer I can talk for hours about. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you everyone for listening and interacting here. Yeah, I'm going to